Hey, booktube, time to wrap up June.
I got my ticket for the long way round.
Some big hits and some real bad misses for the month of June. So I'm going to tell you about these books that I read, and I'm going to start at the bottom and just work my way up to the amazing ones. So starting off, we have Flirting with Disaster by Victoria Dahl. This is book 2 in the Girls Night Out Jackson series. It's set in Jackson, Wyoming, Jackson Hole. And I kind of liked the first one. This, just didn't even finish it. Total miss for me. I couldn't stand the main character from the very outset. So yeah, got rid of that one pretty quickly. Break Your Heart by Rhonda Helms. This was an ARC I received from NetGalley, and it is wonderfully diverse with a main character who is a woman of color, and then the love interest is Asian. And you know, these characters were quite a bit older than what I'm used to with New Adult. She was a student, he's a prof at she's like a graduate student in math, and he's a prof, and okay, so there's the trope, student teacher, forbidden relationship, but it just was so slow in developing. I got about halfway through and I gave up. So I did give it 1 star, but I just did not care for it at all. I think this book has its audience, but it is not me. The Accidental Movie Star by Emily Evans. This was one of those new adult romances that feels like it's stamped out of a mold. It was about a young girl. Actually, she's in high school, but she's trying to get things that will go great on a college application. She's getting experience having done things. Her dad's in the entertainment industry, and he's a bigwig, so she gets a job as an intern on the set of a movie. And as she gets out of the airport, she's leaving the airport at LAX, her dad has sent a limo for her, and she gets in the limo, and also in the limo is the star of the movie she's going to be working on. And he's this incredibly popular movie star from Britain, and he's, unhappy with his life and feels like fame is running him instead of him running his own celebrity. So, the plot was relatively weak. The characters were moderately developed, but I just couldn't do it. I did finish this one, and I think it was okay. I think I even finished it in 1 sitting. So it kept my interest that long, but I only gave it 2 stars. Surviving Raine by Shay Savage. This is by the author of Transcendence, which is one of my very, very favorite books from last year. And so I like this author, and I like her writing, generally speaking. And this is about a very bad man. And the love interest is a girl that's, she's in college. This guy is a sailor. He owns a boat, and he owns it with 2 other guys, and there's an earthquake, and a huge wave overturns the boat, and he becomes shipwrecked, basically, but not shipwrecked. He finds an inflatable raft, and then he finds this girl, and he pulls her up into the raft. Now, this guy knows a lot about survival, and you don't know why at first, and you find that out later. But this is a man who gets drunk every night and then throws up all the next morning, and then gets drunk again at night. He's a total player. I say player, but he's basically a very sad guy with this unending, line of women that entertain him for the evening and then move on. And there's nothing likable about this guy. And in the beginning of the story, he gets the DTs because he can't survive without alcohol. He just wants another drink, and he's horrible to this girl that he's rescued. Oh my, very intense, very interesting main character. I will give him that. He is very interesting. He was intense, and he was disturbed, because even when you do start to like him, you're still a little disturbed at his behavior. It's really intense, and it's very unhealthy. So, interesting book. Great story. Yeah, if you like an intense, disturbed, controlling, stalkerish kind of guy, then this is your book. He was very interesting. I'll give him that. So anyway, I gave this one 3 stars. The Memory Painter by Gwendolyn Womack. This was recommended to me by Christina at Lilo Fangirl. I love Christina. And this was a really good recommendation. It's a kind of an interesting new take on reincarnation. Really interesting because the people who've been reincarnated have been over and over and over and over again. I mean, even back to prehistoric times, these people have been reincarnated and they have these memories. And it's got to do with an experiment, like a brain experiment gone crazy, wild. And the whole thing is really interesting because, first of all, the characters are really well developed and it's nicely paced. And the bad guy is revealed little by little, and you really don't expect for it to be the guy that it is. So that was a nice little twist. I liked the way that this story was told more than I liked the story. And it's called The Memory Painter because the main character is a painter. And when he gets struck with these memories of these lives that he's lived in the past, he paints them so as to deal with them. So good book. I think I would recommend that one. It is a nice romance. It's an interesting romance as it develops. But yeah, 4 stars for me, and I liked it. And lastly, I had 2 5-star books that I read. The first was Another Day by David Levithan. This is the companion novel to Every Day, and I received it as an ARC from NetGalley. I love this book. Well, I loved Every Day. Every Day is about a being named A, not gender specific, which is interesting. A wakes up in the body of a person and lives that person's life for that day, and then when they go to sleep at night, he wakes up in the body of another person. So it could be a guy, could be a girl, and he falls in love with the girlfriend of one of the people that he jumps into one day. And so he keeps trying to get back to her. This all happens in Every Day, but it also happens in Another Day because this is told from the perspective of Rhiannon, who is the love interest. She's the girlfriend of the guy into whose body he dropped one day. So it's all her perspective, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful to see things from her viewpoint because I knew what was going to happen. It's the same story. It's just from a different perspective. So David Levithan is an incredible writer. There are so many quotes from this book and from Every Day that I desperately loved. I need to get a copy of this book of my own, like print copy, because I know that I'm going to be able to go back through and highlight or tab things that just struck me as amazing. He's just an amazing writer. He really is. And, so I loved it. I loved it. And lastly, The Summer Remains by Seth King. This is a story about Summer and Cooper. Summer is a girl, and she has a condition called esophageal atresia, which basically means she has no throat. And so she's been struggling her whole life, surgery after surgery, and she's got a feeding tube, and she's, she can eat, but she can't swallow, obviously, and bad things happen. Well, there's a new procedure that has been developed. And so her doctor says, it's experimental, but we want to try it on you. So she says, okay, well, let's wait until the end of the summer. She lives in Florida at the beach, and she wants one last summer to kind of enjoy her life and kind of, have a life. She has a kind of a bucket list of things she wants to do, and one of them is to fall in love. Well, she does. And Cooper's the guy she falls in love with. And it's the story of their romance. I probably could best summarize this by simply saying, if you liked The Fault in Our Stars, this is better. This is way better because it's not presumptuous at all. It doesn't pretend to be something that it's not. And the characters don't try and say clever things for the sake of being clever. I thought that in The Fault in Our Stars, I really liked that book, and I liked the movie even more, but I have to say that those characters tended to be that way, and I didn't like that. I did love this book. I loved these characters. They were so well developed. The romance was kind of a slow build, and it is extraordinary. Now, this girl gets really upset because people tend to think she's a cancer survivor, and she doesn't have cancer. She has a birth defect. She has a thing that she was born with, and it really annoys her when people refer to her as a cancer survivor. And Cooper gets that. He gets her, and he doesn't try to push her into anything, but they just kind of, that romance is, like I say, a slow build, and the book is, even at that, it's well paced. So it's just heart-wrenching. And you know, a book deserves 5 stars if it makes me cry, and this one did. I don't cry. I don't cry at books. I don't cry at most things. I hate it. It makes my face a mess, and it's all blah, and you need tissues, and I hate crying. This made me cry. This made me teary, and it made me cry. It really touched me. So like I say, if you liked The Fault in Our Stars and you liked that kind of a story, this is so much better. So much better. So 5 stars, hands down. So those were all the contemporary books I read in June. If you've read any of these books, of course I want to know what you thought. So please let me know in comments, and I would love to talk with you about those. And that's it for now from me. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.
When I'm gone, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my walk. You're gonna miss me by my taco. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone.